My dad gave away $50 million and used his final words to destroy me. Chapter 1. The reading: I ironed the same black blouse 3 times that morning, not because it was wrinkled, but because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. My name is Claire, and the day I'm about to tell you about was the day I finally understood that my father had 2 lives. One that everyone knew about, and one that he saved just for me. My father, Richard Whitmore, died on a Tuesday, 4:17 in the morning. The hospice nurse called me with a voice so calm it almost felt like cruelty. I sat at my kitchen table in Hoboken and waited to feel something. Grief, relief, anything clean. What came instead was a dull, heavy ache that didn't have a name. 6 days later, I walked into the law offices of Hargrove and Sinclair in Midtown Manhattan. My brothers were already seated, Derek, 41, Brendan, 39, both in charcoal suits, both wearing that careful look of people who already know something you don't. Neither of them greeted me. The attorney read through the estate: $53 million, real estate, portfolios, bank holdings, all of it, divided equally between Derek and Brendan. Claire received nothing. I heard it clearly. I understood it completely, and I did not move. Then the screen on the wall flickered on. My father appeared, propped against hospital pillows, thinner than I remembered. He looked directly into the camera. His eyes were clear. He had prepared for this. "Derek, Brendan," he said, "you've both made me proud." He paused. "Claire." The room contracted around my name. "I've spent a long time thinking about what to say to you, and I've decided that honesty is the only gift I have left to give." He looked straight into the lens. "You were my greatest regret." The silence in that room, I don't have words for it. Not because of anything you did, but because of what I couldn't give you. I chose, for most of your life, not to try. That was a failure. Mine, not yours. And I'm sorry it took me dying to say it. He took a breath. "I'm leaving you something different. Not money. Alina will explain. I hope you'll understand why." The screen went dark. Every pair of eyes in that room turned slowly toward me. I stood up, smoothed my blouse, looked at the woman across the table, Elena Nabato, my father's personal assistant, watching me with something steadier than pity. "When would you like to meet?" I asked. My voice was level. "I don't know how." "Tomorrow morning," she said. "I'll text you the address." I nodded, picked up my coat, and walked out. I made it to the elevator, and that's where my hands started shaking. Chapter 2. What he left behind. The address Elena sent was not a law office. It was a community center in Washington Heights, a 3-story brick building with painted murals along the outside wall, children's faces, open books, hands reaching upward, and above the door, a banner: Whitmore Learning Center, open to all. I stood on that sidewalk for a full minute, just reading it. Inside, the lobby smelled like floor wax and coffee. Children's voices drifted down the hall. Alina was waiting with 2 cups of coffee already on the desk. 11 years, she told me. "Your father purchased this building anonymously, funded through a private foundation. After-school programs, adult literacy, immigration, legal assistance, about 400 families every year. I looked through the window at the hallway. A young woman was taping a child's drawing to the wall, a lopsided house, a crayon sun. He never told us, I said. He never told anyone. He said he'd spent his career being praised for things he did for show. He wanted to do one thing. That was entirely real. Alina slid a manila envelope across the desk. Inside, a handwritten letter. 3 pages. My father's careful script. He wrote about specific memories I hadn't known he'd kept. The science fair, when I was 9. The argument at 16 that never got repaired. The way I looked at my own daughter when she was born. A look, he wrote, that he recognized because it was the one he had never managed to give me. Near the bottom of the last page, he wrote, "This place is what I should have been. I hope you can make it what I wasn't." I folded the letter and put it back. Then Alina slid a second envelope across the desk, sealed, my name on the front in his handwriting. He asked me to give you this separately. He said you would know when to open it. I picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. I put it in my bag and didn't say another word about it. Chapter 3. The Inheritance of Silence. I didn't open the sealed envelope that night, or the next. I put it in the nightstand drawer and let it sit there, a weight at the edge of everything I was carrying. Instead, I went back to the center. I asked Luz, the program director, to walk me through everything. The tour took 2 hours. 80 kids in after-school tutoring, adult literacy 3 nights a week, a Saturday legal clinic, a roof that needed replacing, and a boiler that was older than I was. Your father came in person exactly once, Luz told me, 2 years ago, unannounced. Walked around for an hour, didn't say much. What did he say when he left? She thought about it. He said, "Keep going." That was it. I looked up at the mural above the staircase, a child's hand holding a pencil like a torch. Give me a month before I change anything. I told Luz, I want to understand what's here first. The expression that crossed her face. It took me a moment to name it. Relief. My brothers called that Friday. Then again. Then again. There was a property in Connecticut. Some ambiguity in the will. They wanted to talk like family. I told them both I'd have my attorney review it. I found one by Monday. On Sunday night, I finally opened the drawer. I sat on the edge of the bed with the envelope in my hands while the ordinary sounds of my life continued around me. I opened it. Inside was a single document. Not a letter. A notarized statement dated 8 months before his death. I read it once, quickly, then again, slowly, and then I sat very still for a very long time. The document was a paternity disclosure. Richard Whitmore was not my biological father. Chapter 4. What the Silence Was Made Of. I called Alina at 7 in the morning. She picked up on the second ring. She had been expecting this. We met at the center before it opened, the building quiet around us. She told me what she knew. Richard had known since I was 3 years old. A private paternity test in 1990 confirmed what my mother had eventually confessed. A brief relationship before the marriage fully broke down with a man named Thomas Adler, an architect my father had employed and later dismissed. He raised me anyway, I said. It wasn't a question. He was cold to me my entire life, I continued, my hands flat on the desk. warm with them and cold with me. And I spent 37 years convinced there was something wrong with me." "He wrote about it," Alina said quietly. "He felt that raising you was something he was doing despite himself. He was ashamed of that. He knew it wasn't your fault. But instead of pretending to feel what he couldn't, he withdrew. He told himself that was the more honest choice." "It wasn't," I said. "No," she said. "It wasn't. Thomas Adler," I said. "Do you know where he is?" "Still alive, 71, Portland, Oregon." "He never knew about you." I absorbed this slowly. The way the body absorbs cold, not all at once, but seeping in. "Richard found him 2 years ago," Alina said. "He considered reaching out. He decided the choice belonged to you." I looked around the small office, listening to the building wake up around us. "He staged all of it," I said. "Not an accusation. A recognition, the will, the video, the building, the envelope, 3 years of planning." "What was the video for?" I asked, calling me his greatest regret in front of everyone. "What was that actually for?" Alina met my eyes. "He said he wanted to give you something public. A statement your brothers couldn't ignore or reinterpret later. If he whispered an apology in private, they would never believe it had happened. He wanted it witnessed." I sat with that for a long time. It was manipulative, and it was also, in its strange and precise way, an act of love, the only kind he had apparently been capable of. He built a place for 400 families and gave it to me, not as compensation, as an explanation. "This is what I was doing instead of loving you. I know it is not the same thing. I hope you can use it." Chapter 5. The building still stands. November came in cold and clean across the Hudson. 3 weeks into my role as trustee, I sat going through the budget with Luz. Roof assessment next week, boiler serviced, bookkeeper hired, attorney retained. I had not yet contacted Thomas Adler. That was still ahead of me, still forming into something I was almost ready to carry. My brothers had stopped calling after I retained the attorney. The Connecticut dispute resolved quietly. They signed. No warmth, no hostility. Just the transactional distance that was, apparently, their truest inheritance from Richard. What I carried instead was the letter. 3 handwritten pages kept in my desk drawer at home. Reread on the days when everything pressed too close. My daughter Nora, 12 years old and already impatient with a world she was clearly going to rearrange, came with me to the center one Saturday. She sat in the back of the adult literacy class without being asked. She watched, she listened. Afterwards she said, "Is this ours now?" "It's ours to take care of," I said. She nodded, as though there had never been any other possibility. One morning, I stopped at a photograph I hadn't noticed before. Tucked into the corner of a bulletin board near the water fountain, a group photo from the center's 5th anniversary. Families, staff, children crowded together in front of the building. In the back row, barely visible, a man in a gray coat, standing slightly apart, not looking at the camera, looking at the people. I leaned in to see his face. The expression there wasn't pride. It was something older and harder than pride. It was longing. The look of a man standing outside a lit window, watching the warmth he had created but could not quite enter. A man who learned, too late, the difference between building something and belonging to it. I unpinned the photograph and carried it to my office. I would have it framed, not as a memorial, not as forgiveness, which I was still working toward in the slow way that real forgiveness moves, but as a record, proof that a person can spend a lifetime building walls and still, at the very end, find the will to build a door. Luz came in with a folder of grant applications. A foundation in the Bronx. Adult literacy funding. 3 weeks to the deadline. Let's do it, I said. Outside, kids were arriving for the after-school program, backpacks bouncing, voices carrying up through the glass. The sidewalk full of children who had nowhere else to be, and everywhere still to go. One of them said something that made the others laugh. A real laugh, surprised and easy. The kind that doesn't ask permission. I listened to it for a moment. Then I picked up a pen and began to write. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt invisible to someone you needed to see you, I hope you found something here. Not every apology arrives on time, but sometimes the ones that come late carry the most weight. Thank you for watching, and if no one has told you today, you are not someone's regret, you never were.